My name's Rob Wilson. I'm the Director of Digital for DBD International, and it's my responsibility to bring decision intelligence to all of our clients. That includes modeling and simulation, digital infrastructure, and visualization communication.
I'm James Hawco. I'm a digital lead here at DBD, and when I'm supporting clients, I play a technical lead role. So that means that I turn the needs of our clients into requirements for modeling tools and platforms. And then I work with a team of modelers and data engineers to turn those requirements into usable solutions to help our clients make decisions. So Rob, at DBD, we're really keen on using modern tools and modern approaches to help our customers make decisions. What problems do you see with more traditional approaches to nuclear engineering and nuclear delivery, and why are modeling and simulation? Why is modeling and simulation good for tackling those?
Yeah, James, what we've seen in the nuclear industry is that a lot of the tools that are used were really built for one specific purpose. So that might be planning, it might be scheduling, it might be engineering, it might be some form of technical, really minutia type calculations. And they're spread across a whole wide variety of different platforms. And so those platforms don't necessarily talk to each other.
Mm.
And what we end up seeing is you have decisions made somewhat in a limited space. So you don't get the whole picture. And what DBD does from a modeling and simulation perspective is we help access all those data sources, pull them together into a functional platform that then you can use. You can look at resources, you can look at cost, you can look at schedule, and you can look at technical, so the true engineering side of things, all together in one platform, knowing that your assumptions and your bases are all pre-vetted and everybody's working from the same page. So what it really helps us to do is to show a concerted picture rather than piecemeal or individual components. And it really, really helps our clients understand, oh, this is the differences that really make a difference in what we are trying to do here. And so you can run scenarios, you can look at the different alternatives or opportunities and solve for that particular problem rather than trying to use a whole bunch of different sets of software in order to make the same kind of decision.
Real end-to-end lifecycle modeling, breaking down sort of silos between different groups.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, lifecycle modeling is one of our kind of specialties, and that can go from anything from, front end engineering design all the way to final disposition and decommissioning of a facility and everything in between. And so what it really helps is you're looking at timescales sometimes of 3 years, 5 years, or maybe even 40 years. And it's hard to understand what the implications of decisions today will have on things, even 5 years down the road, let alone 10. But we can do that in a wide variety of scenarios, even putting probability towards that, and help you identify where your real risks are in terms of cost or schedule or resources, and then dial in and decide, oh, this is our best pathway based upon what we know now, and then constantly tweak those as you get more information, as you improve, and the models get better and better.
Yeah, I guess previously we might have relied on experience and then actual testing, field testing, building of complex, replica units for what you might want to do, and then you might build the unit and then find out that actually you've asked the wrong question,
Yeah.
and at that point you've already built your test unit.
Yeah, that's really on point there because as a former test director, I've built bench, pilot, and full-scale test platforms, and at least 2 of those were multi-million-dollar test platforms that were answering the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't realize that they were answering the wrong question until they had done years worth of actual study and experimentation.
Yeah.
Whereas if we had built that in a digital space, we could have used a wide variety of what-if scenarios or asked different questions to find out what was truly driving the need. And that's the power of modeling and simulation, is that you can do it fast. You can do it in digital space without a lot of cost or schedule impacts, and you can do it as much as you need to or as little as you need to.
Opens up the door to asking weird and wonderful questions that you might not have thought of even asking before.
Right. Yeah. That makes a big difference to our clients because it's allows them to target where they want to spend their money and to time the spend of that money even better. And because everybody has finite resources, and you want to be able to use those resources as efficiently and productively as possible. And that's what digital tools help you to do. So James, now that we're in modeling and simulation space, it's really easy to come up with a whole bunch of different assumptions and bases. Um, Different groups make different assumptions that are closer to what they're interested in.
Mm.
How do we ensure that we're getting consistent assumptions and bases for an organization that might have 2,500 people and encompass planning, engineering, operations, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because they often different different teams want different answers from a similar set of models, and we've come across cases before where teams have two different models representing the exact same process, but because of the different assumptions, they give vastly different outputs. And which one do you believe? One of the things that we do really well here at DBD is tying different models together and helping to unify assumptions to create a single source of truth. And a big part of that is getting buy-in from the different modelers, the different data users, so that they are confident that the assumptions that we're making in those models are going to give them the answer that they need, and that shared single source of truth is agreed upon by everyone at an early stage.
So a lot of the times when we're dealing with our customers, there's multiple layers of information that either that's the executive board, that might be upper management, it might be engineers, it might be operators. So how do we ensure that each level gets the data and the information that they need to make good decisions?
Yeah, one thing that we've seen a lot with customers is that there are often modelers and data generators, and then there are data users, and quite often there's a lengthy process between the data user who wants a piece of information from the model. They have to then request a model run or a simulation run. They then have to work with the modeler to come up with a set of assumptions or tweak the model if necessary. The modeler then has to go away and run a simulation and then give the answers back. But what we really like to do is put the models in the hands of whoever needs it. And so quite often we make tools that are accessible to everyone. You don't require licenses to use them in all cases. They're very accessible. Oftentimes we'll build user interfaces that look like a website, so they're easy to interact with. You don't have to be a master coder to use these tools. And then a big part of that is making sure everyone's bought into the assumptions at the start, understands what the model is valid for, what the model is not valid for, how it can be used. And then a big part at the end is the output data. So we put big emphasis on making output dashboards that are accessible to everyone. Oftentimes we'll tweak and personalize different pages on the dashboard. So we might have a page that's bespoke to perhaps decision makers in the executive offices or something like that, and then we'll have a different page that might be relevant to an operator who wants to know what the next operation they're going to do is. And so making sure that both the model and the outputs of that model are available to everyone, I think, demystifies the process and gets everyone bought in a little bit more. There's not silos dependent on each other. They're all kind of working together, pushing together towards a common goal.
Yeah, that is the goal, right? Is everybody's single source of truth,
Yeah.
pulling the same information, same bases. And so once we have achieved that, what's the response from the customer?
Genuinely really positive. I think people find it much easier to work collaboratively with one another rather than in a sort of dependence that they perhaps might have worked previously, and cuts out a lot of red tape often as well, so people can try things faster. If previously they might have wanted to make a request, they might have thought, well, it's going to take me 3 weeks to request it and get someone else to do it and get an answer. They might just be able to run it on their computer, and so they would ask different questions that they might otherwise not have asked. So positive response in general to that sort of way of working, I would say.
And one of the things that we've also seen is that people spend a lot more time doing actual problem solving rather than running models or running the little tools that they've developed. And it helps to free them up to actually do what they were meant to do,
Yeah.
rather than trying to answer a whole bunch of questions from a model that needs to be largely manually manipulated. So we see a big increase in productivity and a little bit more in terms of efficiency as well. Efficiency of transfer of knowledge is probably a better way of putting it.
Mhm.
And that's been well received by our clients. And they've thought of new things and new ways to do things, which is quite encouraging.
Yeah, a bit of extra time gives you a bit of freedom to think of, well, what if we try this?
Yep.
So yeah.
So although we work with clients on near-term planning projects and near-term modeling and simulation needs, we also work with a bunch of clients that have multi-year, sometimes multi-decade projects, but they're subject to limitations of, say, budget or resource availability or just general work planning challenges. And so how do we, as a modeling and simulation digital delivery company, adapt and help our clients when they have ever-changing limitations and demands?
Yeah. So we recognize that oftentimes our clients, or oftentimes modeling is often delivered as a sort of one-off deliverable. You want to answer a question, you do a piece of modeling work, and that answers your question, but that's it. That kind of gets parked there, and it's not necessarily reusable. Maybe your direction of travel changes or your annual budget changes and you need to answer a different question. Suddenly you need to tweak that. You might need some specialist skills to tweak that. And actually it leads to quite long lead times on answering questions like that. So what we try to do is focus on delivering almost tools or platforms that are fully flexible and can be used to answer short-term questions that are changeable, or indeed long-term look further afield. And like you said at the start, looking at sort of that life cycle modeling of a whole, could be a whole facility or a whole operational facility.
Yeah, one of the things that I think we see and have seen more and more here recently is that work priorities change.
Yeah.
And that could be for a variety of reasons, but our customers have customers as well, and they're trying to meet the demands of their customers. And so when a work priority changes, having a tool or a modeling set that is kind of hardwired is very frustrating for them because they can't get the answers that they need in the time frame that they need those answers. And so our tools, I find, because we build in that flexibility and we try and think about how the tool might be used, not just this week or 6 months from now, but maybe from a year from now or 2 years from now. And I think it would be worthwhile to you talking about how we work and build things in a modular fashion so that we can, add capability as needs arise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a big thing that we've been doing recently, is working on sort of modular builds. And so when tackled with one question, we'll try and consider how that one question fits into the whole picture of a site as a whole, for example. And we will aim to build that model or tool, or whether it's a chemistry simulation or whether it's a dashboard, a visualization dashboard. We'll try and build that with a view to expanding it to supporting different areas or answering different questions, but with minimal rework, so it can slot into a different tool that we're building, or possibly be repurposed to work in small part of it work in a standalone fashion. And that reusability, it comes with huge advantages. Obviously, it cuts down on development time, but there's a big advantage in sort of QA and testing as well. If we're reusing tried and tested models, it just gives added confidence to the client that we're not making up new things here. It's stuff that you guys are familiar with, you already know it, and we're just adding new bits on.
One of the things I think that we're seeing is that the industry as a whole, for our general industry, is trying to minimize licensing costs. Software, platforms have a baked-in cost. They're, either annual or subscription-based.
Yeah.
And that cost, they want to get the most value out of. And so they're not looking for a company to come in and bring a tool and say, oh, you need to buy this platform from us and use that. Our strength has been in our flexibleness. It's like, we'll use your tools. We'll adapt using open source platforms and open source capability in order to adapt to what they need and what their investment already is. And so that we're a minimal cost adder without adding any kind of software licensing additional cost to them. and that's been well received.
Yeah.
What we see now is cost minimization to the extent possible, with a more of a focus on human productivity, and so really thinking that the tool should enhance human productivity, and by preventing or minimizing your software licensing costs as you grow, that's a powerful incentive to use us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's exciting times.
Yeah.
Lots of technology is rapidly changing. I know that from our perspective, we're trying to stay at the leading edge or near the forefront in every area, from artificial intelligence through machine learning.
Yeah.
And our teams, one of the teams that you work with, have been leveraging machine learning, surrogate models, a lot of kind of cutting edge type tools, neural networks, for example, to help speed up how modeling can be kind of turbocharged. What's been the response to that from our customers?
Really positive. I mean, we work in an industry that is historically not particularly quick on the uptake of new technologies. So it's really exciting to be able to bring technologies like that to an industry. And yeah, in general, people are excited to see it. They want more of it. They want it. They ask what we can bring from an AI perspective to help support their work, and in general, yeah, really positive response.
Yeah, I definitely think that we've seen an uptick in interest, definitely an uptick in speed of adaptation of the right AI tool for the right problem, but maintaining human in the loop, so that there is always some validation, there's some checks and balances associated, and to truly use it as a tool to help aid decision making, but the decision maker is still a human being who's going to make the right call based upon good data. And so I think our role is kind of more of an integrator. It's taking some of those cutting edge tools and applying them in the right place at the right time, and then giving the user the confidence that the information that they're getting out of it is very high quality. And so they have confidence in the data that they're getting, and so they can make a confident decision.
Yeah.
And I think we'll continue along those lines. As things change rapidly, we're a nimble company.
Yep.
We'll change rapidly as well, and we'll meet our customers where we need to.